Have you ever noticed that the people who betray you rarely look like enemies? They smile. They nod. They sit across from you at dinner. They say, "I love you, I'm here for you, you can trust me." And all the while, something underneath the surface is shifting. That is the cruel genius of betrayal. It does not always arrive like violence. Sometimes it arrives like warmth. Sometimes it arrives with a soft voice, a calm face, and perfect timing. Sometimes it waits until you are tired, attached, emotionally invested, then it pulls the floor out from under you. And that is what makes it so dangerous. Because betrayal is not just pain. It is disorientation. It makes you question your memory, your instincts, your standards, even your worth. It makes you wonder whether you were too trusting, too generous, too patient, or simply too blind. In this video, we are going to break down the 3 betrayals you should never forgive in relationships, not because forgiveness is weak, but because some violations do not just hurt your heart, they train your soul to live beneath its own dignity if you tolerate them long enough. We are going to talk about disloyalty, deception, and emotional manipulation. And by the end, I want to show you something deeper than pain. I want to show you why betrayal is often the moment a man finally sees the world clearly. And stay with me until the end, because the last betrayal is the one that destroys people most quietly. It is the one many men live with for years without even realizing their spirit is being bent out of shape in real time. If any part of this hits something real in you, comment below. I choose truth over betrayal. Because today is not about drama. It is not about revenge. It is not about turning cold. It is about learning how to see what society trains you to ignore. A strange thing happens as you get older. You stop being shocked that people lie. What shocks you is how normal they can look while doing it. That is the part no one prepares you for. The modern world celebrates performance. It rewards appearances, emotional theater, curated sincerity. People know how to speak the language of loyalty without possessing any loyalty at all. They know how to perform concern, perform transparency, perform intimacy, perform remorse. And if you are a genuine person, if you come in with a real heart, that false world can catch you off guard. Because you assume people mean what they say. You assume their words and their character still belong to the same body. But a more Machiavellian view of life, one most people avoid because it feels uncomfortable, forces you to confront a harder truth: many people are not guided by principle. They are guided by advantage. They don't ask, what is right? They ask, what works for me right now? And when benefit replaces principle, betrayal becomes easy. That is why this conversation matters. Not so you become paranoid. Not so you stop loving. Not so you walk through life suspicious of everyone. But so you stop confusing kindness with blindness. So you stop calling self-abandonment love. So you stop treating your own peace as a negotiable asset in other people's games. Because the truth is, many betrayals do not destroy you the first time they happen. They destroy you when you keep explaining them away. So let's begin. 1. Disloyalty. There is a specific kind of silence that enters a room when someone you trusted chooses themselves at your expense. If you have lived long enough, you know that silence. It is not loud. It is not cinematic. There is no dramatic music playing in the background. No one announces it. It is just a shift. A change in tone. A missing defense when someone speaks against you. A smile that doesn't reach the eyes when something good happens to you. A sudden absence when your life gets inconvenient. A strange coldness from someone who used to feel solid. And in that moment, something in you begins to wake up. Not all at once. Not in a grand, heroic way. More like a quiet death. The version of you that believed closeness automatically meant loyalty begins to disappear. And maybe that happened to you in a relationship. Maybe it was the person who swore they were different. The person who said, "I would never do that to you." The person who knew exactly what you had been through before, looked you in the eyes, learned your scars, learned your fears, and still found a way to stand on the wrong side of you when it counted. Or maybe it was not romantic. Maybe it was a friend who acted like your brother when you were winning, but became strangely distant when your life got hard. Maybe it was someone who loved your energy, your ideas, your generosity, your presence, but never loved you enough to protect your name when you were not in the room. That is disloyalty. And the hardest part is that many men try to soften it. They call it confusion. They call it bad timing. They call it emotional immaturity. They call it stress. They call it a misunderstanding. Because naming it for what it is would force them to act. But disloyalty is rarely an accident. It is a decision. A decision to preserve personal comfort over principle. A decision to stay silent when honor required courage. A decision to benefit from your presence while refusing the responsibility that comes with being close to you. That is why it cuts so deep. Because when someone is disloyal, they are not just failing you. They are revealing what your place in their hierarchy truly was. And once you see that, you cannot unsee it. This is where Stoicism becomes useful, not as a way to suppress pain, but as a way to stand inside it without losing your mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about seeing things as they are, stripped of decoration, stripped of fantasy, stripped of emotional perfume. And that is what disloyalty requires from you. You have to see it plainly. Not the version you hope for. Not the excuse that keeps the relationship alive. Not the story that protects your attachment. The truth. And the truth is simple: if someone repeatedly stands against your peace, your dignity, your trust, or your name, they are not in your life as an ally. They are in your life as a liability. That does not mean they are evil. It means they are unsafe. And a lot of suffering comes from staying emotionally bonded to unsafe people because they once gave us moments that felt real. That is where many men get trapped. They remember the tenderness. The old conversations. The inside jokes. The late-night promises. The early days when everything felt clean and loyal and simple. So when the disloyalty appears, they don't judge the person by the betrayal. They judge the betrayal against the memory. And memory is a dangerous place to build your standards. Because memory is emotional. Memory is selective. Memory often wants to preserve what the present has already destroyed. You know what disloyalty often looks like in real life? It looks like a partner who is all in when you are strong, stable, impressive, useful, but turns ambiguous the moment you become vulnerable. It looks like someone who says they support you, but becomes irritated by the process required to build the life you are trying to build. It looks like people who love your outcomes, but resent your discipline. It looks like someone celebrating you in public and quietly competing with you in private. It looks like a woman telling you she wants honesty, then punishing you emotionally the moment your honesty makes her uncomfortable. It looks like a friend who constantly asks for your time, your energy, your advice, your support, but the minute your name gets challenged, he disappears into neutrality. And neutrality in moments of truth is often just betrayal wearing cleaner clothes. That is a hard sentence. But it is real. Because loyalty is not measured by how people treat you when loving you is easy. It is measured by what they do when loving you becomes inconvenient. Anyone can stand beside a man when he is shining. Who stands beside him when he is misunderstood? Who stands beside him when he is not useful? Who stands beside him when there is social risk in doing so? That is where character lives. And if no one ever taught you this, let me say it plainly: loyalty from others begins with loyalty to yourself. If you keep allowing people to stay close after repeated signs of disloyalty, you are not being patient. You are teaching your own nervous system that your dignity is negotiable. That has consequences. You start over-explaining. You start doubting your standards. You start tolerating what once would have disgusted you. You start becoming smaller in rooms where you used to feel grounded. You start watching people carefully, not because you are wise, but because you stayed too long after wisdom had already spoken. And eventually, your spirit becomes tired. Not because betrayal happened, but because you kept asking your soul to live where it no longer felt respected. So what do? First, stop arguing with evidence. If someone only shows up when life is easy, see it. If someone speaks differently about you depending on who is in the room, see it. If someone benefits from your heart but cannot be counted on when truth demands courage, see it. Not emotionally. Clearly. Second, adjust access. Not every betrayal needs a speech. Not every ending needs a courtroom. Not every disappointment deserves a dramatic confrontation. Sometimes the most powerful response is quiet distance. Less access. Less explanation. Less intimacy. Less availability. Not because you are bitter. Because you are awake. Third, stop treating loneliness like a punishment. One reason people stay around disloyal people is because solitude scares them more than disrespect. But solitude does not destroy a man. Confusion does. Inconsistency does. Being surrounded by people who smile in your face and erode your peace behind your back does. A lonely season can refine you. A disloyal circle will deform you. And when you finally understand that, your standards change. You stop begging for reassurance. You stop trying to get people to admit what they already showed you. You stop chasing emotional closure from those who chose convenience over honor. You realize something simpler. A man with clarity does not need a confession from the person who betrayed him. He only needs the courage to stop pretending he didn't see it. So if this part hits close to home, ask yourself. Who in your life keeps receiving loyalty from you they have never truly earned? And why? 2. Deception. Disloyalty breaks trust. Deception breaks reality. That is why it is one of the most psychologically exhausting betrayals a person can experience. Because when someone deceives you long enough, the damage is not limited to what they did. The deeper damage is what it does to your mind. It makes you second-guess what you saw, what you heard, what you felt, what your body knew before your mind was ready to accept it. And that is a special kind of torment. If you have ever been deceived by someone close to you, you know the moment I mean. You are sitting there, trying to listen. Trying to be fair. Trying not to overreact. Trying to stay calm. And yet something in your chest is tightening because the story does not feel right. The details don't line up. The tone is off. The explanation is too polished. The eye contact is just a little too controlled. The timing shifts every time you ask a basic question. You leave the conversation feeling guilty for asking, but not relieved by the answer. That is not paranoia. That is friction with reality. And deception lives in that friction. It is rarely just one lie. That would almost be easier. No, deception is usually a system. A half-truth here. An omission there. A change in story. A delayed answer. An emotional detour. A strategic tear. A warm apology with no real transparency. Just enough truth to keep you unsure. Just enough affection to keep you invested. Just enough confusion to keep you from acting. That is why deception is so effective. It doesn't always overpower you. It exhausts you. It makes you spend your energy trying to solve what should never have been a puzzle in the first place. And this happens in modern relationships every day. A woman says, "You're overthinking it," when your instincts are reacting to something very real. A friend tells you, "That's not what I meant," for the 5th time, even though the pattern keeps repeating. A family member denies saying something cruel, then reframes you as dramatic for remembering it accurately. A partner keeps private conversations, hidden emotional connections, suspicious habits, strange disappearances, vague timelines, but acts offended that you would even ask. That is how deception works. It flips the burden. Now you are the one who feels unstable. You are the one explaining why honesty matters. You are the one trying to prove what should be obvious. And the liar gets to stand there performing innocence while your nervous system burns itself alive. This is where many good-hearted people lose years of their life. Not because they are stupid. Because they still believe truth will matter to someone who benefits from confusion. But hear me carefully, a liar does not need you to believe the lie completely. They only need you to doubt yourself enough to stay. That is the game. And if you have never looked at it that way before, you should. Because the world often talks about lies in a childish way, like deception is just someone saying something false. Real deception is far more sophisticated. It is emotional architecture. It is the careful construction of a false atmosphere around the truth. It is creating just enough ambiguity that you hesitate to trust your own perception. It is making honesty seem harsh and manipulation seem reasonable. That is why so many men stay trapped in deceptive relationships longer than they should. They are not addicted to the person. They are trapped in the unfinished mental loop. They want the full truth. They want the lie admitted. They want the hidden thing brought into the light. They want their instincts validated by the mouth of the very person who worked so hard to invalidate them. And that rarely comes. Not because the truth is not there. Because deception survives by never fully resolving. It wants you suspended. Always almost understanding. Always almost getting clarity. Always one conversation away from peace. But peace does not come from more conversation with a liar. Peace comes from no longer negotiating with what your body already knows. This is one of the most important lessons a man can learn. You do not always need proof in the theatrical sense. You need pattern recognition. If someone's words and actions repeatedly separate, trust the separation. If you consistently leave interactions feeling foggy, guilty, or mentally spun around, pay attention. If someone becomes angry every time accountability approaches, pay attention. If they offer explanations faster than they offer transparency, pay attention. If simple questions create elaborate performances, pay attention. Patterns are the language truth uses when words have been compromised. And Stoicism, at its core, teaches you to return to what is real. Not what flatters you. Not what comforts you. Not what preserves attachment. What is real? Epictetus taught that we suffer less when we stop trying to control what is not ours. A liar's conscience is not yours. Their explanation is not yours. Their internal moral structure is not yours. You do not control whether they become honest. You only control whether you continue handing your peace to someone who has already shown you they will use it recklessly. That is your side of the equation. And yes, this is hard. Because deception does not just steal truth. It often steals the fantasy you built around the relationship. It forces you to admit that what you thought was intimacy may have been access without honesty. That what you thought was safety may have been dependency. That what you thought was love may have contained more management than mutual respect. That hurts. Especially for a man who genuinely wanted to build something real. Maybe you ignored the small lies because you were trying to be mature. Maybe you kept giving chances because you thought patience was strength. Maybe you wanted so badly for the story to be true that you kept overlooking the evidence that it wasn't. There is no shame in that. The shame is only in staying asleep after the pattern becomes undeniable. So what do you do when deception is in front of you? First, stop chasing confession. You do not need to cross-examine people who have already shown you who they are. You do not need to become a private investigator in your own relationship. You do not need screenshots, witnesses, a signed statement, and a full courtroom scene to justify protecting your peace. Second, become allergic to inconsistency. People think they need stronger boundaries with disrespect. Often what they really need is stronger boundaries with ambiguity. Because prolonged ambiguity is where self-respect goes to die. Third, trust what repeated confusion is telling you. A healthy relationship can involve difficulty, emotion, misunderstanding, and imperfection. But it should not make reality feel unstable. It should not require you to constantly reinterpret what you saw. It should not punish you for wanting clarity. It should not leave you feeling like honesty is somehow rude. And if it does, you are not in peace. You are in a psychological maze. Fourth, detach without needing to be understood. That is a high-level skill. A liar often wants one final thing from you, your need to explain yourself. Your need to make them see why you are leaving. Your need to morally educate them. Your need to be seen as fair, calm, kind, rational, mature. But sometimes maturity is simply this: I saw enough. That sentence can save years of your life. Because some people do not change when confronted. They adapt. They refine the act. They become better at appearing offended. Better at sounding innocent. Better at making your clarity look cruel. And if you have ever walked away from deception, you know what happens next. They may call you cold. They may say you became distant. They may tell others you were insecure. They may rewrite the narrative to protect themselves. Let them. People who survive on deception often need to edit the story because truth exposes the architecture of their behavior. Your job is not to win the public trial. Your job is to leave the prison. So let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many times have you called it confusing when deep down you already knew it was dishonest? 3. Emotional manipulation. If disloyalty wounds trust, and deception distorts reality, emotional manipulation colonizes your inner life. This is the betrayal that teaches you to betray yourself. And that is why it is the most dangerous of all. Because emotional manipulation does not always arrive as obvious abuse. Sometimes it arrives as neediness. Sometimes as sadness. Sometimes as fragility. Sometimes as love. Sometimes as guilt packaged as vulnerability. Sometimes as a tone that makes you feel like a monster for simply having a boundary. This is the betrayal many men miss because it does not always look aggressive. It looks emotional. It looks wounded. It looks personal. It looks like someone just going through a hard time. Meanwhile, little by little, your internal world is being trained to abandon itself. And if you have ever lived inside this kind of relationship, you know how strange it feels. You can be physically strong, disciplined, capable, respected in other areas of life, and still feel mentally exhausted after one conversation with one person. You go in calm. You leave confused. You go in with a simple issue. You leave apologizing for your tone. You go in wanting clarity. You leave carrying guilt that was never yours. That is not normal conflict. That is distortion. And emotional manipulation thrives in distortion. It changes the rules mid-conversation. It redirects attention the moment accountability appears. It makes your pain secondary and their feelings central. It turns your reaction into the main problem while quietly avoiding the original issue. And the longer it goes on, the more dangerous it becomes. Because eventually you stop asking, what are they doing to me? And you start asking, what is wrong with me? That is the trap. You start censoring yourself. Softening yourself. Walking on eggshells. Rehearsing your words before basic conversations. Monitoring their moods. Adjusting your truth so it lands gently enough not to trigger another emotional scene. And one day you look up and realize you have been living in someone else's emotional weather for so long that you no longer know what your own climate feels like. That is soul-level exhaustion. And it happens all the time. It looks like someone who shuts down when you bring up a real concern, then later accuses you of being insensitive because of how you raised it. It looks like affection disappearing the moment you assert a standard, then suddenly returning once you are destabilized enough to accept less. It looks like being compared to other people in subtle ways so your self-worth stays slightly off balance. It looks like tears appearing every time you ask for accountability. It looks like someone turning every disagreement into a referendum on your character rather than a conversation about behavior. It looks like this sentence. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me. That sentence has trapped many men. Because it bypasses the issue and goes straight for the nervous system. Now you are not discussing the real problem. Now you are defending your morality. That is manipulation. So is this. You always make me feel like I'm the bad guy. Maybe. Or maybe for the first time, accountability has entered the room and they don't know how to exist inside it. Manipulative dynamics often make healthy firmness feel cruel. That is one reason people stay. They don't want to be harsh. They don't want to be the villain. They don't want to abandon someone who seems wounded. And to be fair, many manipulators are wounded. But wounds do not excuse weaponizing another person's empathy. Pain does not justify control. Trauma does not give someone the right to make your emotional stability the cost of their comfort. That is a sentence many people need to hear. Because modern culture often confuses compassion with endless tolerance. It tells you that understanding someone's pain means you must keep absorbing its consequences. But Stoicism teaches something harder and cleaner. Compassion without self-command becomes self-destruction. You can understand someone and still leave. You can care and still create distance. You can love someone and still refuse the dynamic. That is not cruelty. That is emotional adulthood. And if you are a man who has been manipulated emotionally, chances are you have mistaken endurance for virtue. You told yourself you were being patient, strong, devoted, grounded, protective. But in reality, maybe you were slowly becoming conditioned. Conditioned to apologize quickly. Conditioned to suppress discomfort. Conditioned to doubt your perception. Conditioned to think peace meant keeping them emotionally regulated at your own expense. And that is not love. That is captivity with emotional language wrapped around it. So how do you break free? First, reclaim your right to interpret your own experience. If a conversation consistently leaves you smaller, ashamed, foggy, guilty, or twisted around, that matters. If your body relaxes only when the person is absent, that matters. If you feel more like yourself away from them than near them, that matters. Do not gaslight yourself because they sound convincing. Second, document patterns mentally, or literally. Not because you are trying to build a case against someone. Because manipulation survives in vagueness. When you begin naming the pattern, it loses some of its spell. Every time I bring up something real, the conversation becomes about my tone. Every time I set a boundary, they act hurt until I back down. Every time I express pain, I end up comforting them. That clarity is powerful. Third, stop over-explaining your boundaries. Manipulators often do not need more information. They need more access. And the more you explain, the more material they gain to reframe, twist, personalize, or use emotionally against you. A simple boundary is often enough. No. That doesn't work for me. I'm not discussing this further. I heard what you said. I'm stepping back. Quiet boundaries are difficult for manipulators because they leave less space for theater. Fourth, separate empathy from surrender. This one is big. You can recognize that someone is hurting. You can understand that they are scared. You can see their wounds. You can even feel compassion for the child in them. And still refuse to let the adult in them keep violating your peace. Those two things can exist together. In fact, mature love often requires them to. Because real love is not the endless tolerance of chaos. Real love has form, standards, integrity, truth. Without those things, what people often call love is just emotional dependency with poetic language. And maybe this part hurts because it reminds you of someone. Maybe it reminds you of those long nights where the conversation kept circling and circling and circling until you forgot what the original issue even was. Maybe it reminds you of sitting in your car after an argument, staring at the windshield in silence, trying to understand why you felt so wrong for saying something so reasonable. Maybe it reminds you of how your body began preparing for the next emotional trap before it even arrived. Maybe it reminds you of the moment you realized you were not speaking freely anymore. You were speaking strategically, carefully, defensively. That is when many men know the truth. They may not say it yet, but they know. And once you know, the responsibility changes. Now it is not just about what they are doing. Now it is about whether you will continue participating in the arrangement. Because manipulation intensifies when control begins to slip. The moment you get quieter, clearer, less reactive, less available, less explainable, watch what happens. They may accuse, plead, cry, charm, promise, collapse, reignite affection, rewrite history. Suddenly, see everything. Suddenly, understand your pain. Suddenly want to talk honestly. Sometimes that remorse is real. Often it is panic. And only time, not emotional intensity, can tell the difference. That is why you must stay centered. Not angry. Not vindictive. Not dramatic. Centered. Because emotional manipulation feeds off your emotional overparticipation. It wants your guilt. Your over-explaining. Your need to fix. Your fear of being misread. Remove that fuel, and the whole dynamic begins to starve. This is where many men finally meet a deeper form of strength. Not the strength of enduring chaos. The strength of leaving it. Not the strength of winning the argument. The strength of no longer needing one. Not the strength of proving you were right. The strength of protecting your peace before your spirit breaks any further. And once you experience real peace after manipulation, something changes permanently. You become slower to romanticize intensity. Slower to chase chemistry without character. Slower to confuse emotional urgency with love. Because peace teaches you what chaos never could. You were never asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. The 3 betrayals you should never ignore. So let's bring this together. The first betrayal was disloyalty. That is when someone chooses themselves at your expense and reveals that your place in their life was conditional all along. It teaches you that loyalty is not measured by presence during pleasure, but by integrity during inconvenience. The second betrayal was deception. That is when someone distorts truth so consistently that you begin doubting your own perception. It teaches you that confusion is often not a sign to investigate longer, it is a sign to respect the pattern sooner. The third betrayal was emotional manipulation. That is when someone trains you to override your own instincts, needs, and standards in order to keep the relationship functioning. It teaches you that the worst betrayal is the one that slowly convinces you to participate in your own erosion. And if you noticed something, all 3 betrayals do more than hurt. They reveal. They reveal the other person's character, yes. But more importantly, they reveal where your standards were still asleep. That is not an insult. That is growth. Because no man becomes truly grounded without seeing, at least once, how easily love can become a mask for advantage, how easily closeness can become access without reverence, how easily modern relationships can drift into performance, control, and strategic ambiguity if no one brings truth into the room. And that is the deeper message here. This is not about becoming cold. It is not about punishing everyone for what one person did. It is not about pride dressed up as stoicism. It is about becoming harder to deceive because you have become more honest with yourself. It is about becoming harder to manipulate because you no longer abandon your own inner voice to keep someone comfortable. It is about becoming harder to betray because your peace is no longer available at discount prices. You were not weak for trusting. You were not foolish for loving fully. You were not naive for hoping people meant what they said. That only means your heart was real. But now your wisdom has to become real too. Because healing is not just moving on. Healing is refusing to call a wound love after you finally understand what caused it. And sometimes the most powerful thing a man can say is not, "I hate you." Not, "I'll make you regret this." Not, "You ruined me." Sometimes the most powerful thing he can say is, "Never again. Never again will I explain away what my spirit already felt. Never again will I reward ambiguity with access. Never again will I call self-betrayal patience. Never again will I confuse emotional chaos with intimacy. Never again will I abandon myself just to keep someone else from confronting who they are." That is where your new life starts. Not in revenge. In clarity. Not in bitterness. In standards. Not in emotional numbness. In disciplined peace. And once you build a life around truth, real truth, not performance, something incredible happens. Disloyal people stop feeling attractive. Liars become easier to read. Manipulators lose their magic. And your nervous system finally learns what safety feels like. Not safety because everyone is good. But safety because you are no longer willing to ignore what is bad. That is power. Quiet power. Silent authority. If this spoke to something you have been carrying, comment below, "Never again." Not for me. For you. Let that be the line between the version of you that kept trying to survive betrayal, and the version of you that finally learned how to stop inviting it to stay. And if this video gave language to something you have felt for a long time but could never fully explain, support the channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who needs it. Because there are too many people out here silently bleeding from betrayals they were taught to minimize, too many men calling confusion love, calling anxiety connection, calling endurance loyalty. That has to end somewhere. Let it end here.